And we're live.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Talks. My name is Phil, and that is Rob. Wait, wrong side. That's Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're back again. We've been talking profusely here for a couple of minutes or something. Kind of just trying to figure out what
Yeah.
to talk about, honestly, today, because
Well,
kind of not much has happened. Like that's fun to look at TA wise, at least
yeah.
on Bitcoin. Um, we've been seeing kind of a
There's been some alt
accumulation
pumps, but
sideways
that's
thing. Yep.
yeah.
And we've also talked a little bit about inflation, which we're going to talk about today as well. Just to make sure that we are kind of, we need to look at that too, because on Wednesday, inflation numbers comes out and we get to see what happens then. And that might be one of the reasons, maybe, to why, we're seeing this boring sideways move. People are kind of waiting for something to happen, a big announcement or something, to know if they want to go up or down in the price range. Basically, that's my take on it. Rob might say no, but
No,
we'll
no,
see.
no. We'll talk about it.
So you said no right away. I told you. All right, cool. I'm just gonna jump straight into the BTC chart. This is the same that we always look at every week. I've fixed this midline just ever so slightly, and
Yeah.
we're going to talk
we
about
never,
why
we never
mine
move
is.
trend lines, but we move the trend line. No, I think
Yeah,
it's the thing is with this trend line is very subjective, and
yeah,
it is a case of see it as a range, and we're just sort of hugging it. And while we're hugging it, that's sort of validating it as a range support. But yeah, diagonals, don't worry about it to the dollar.
yeah, no. So what we've done here is that I've adjusted mine just slightly on the log scale, and Rob is using the linear scale, and we're going to kind of show you what the differences might be, because it kind of depends a little bit on if the majority of the market is using linear and why they would do that compared to using log scale, and why you would use that. And so for my example right here, we're going to stay on the log scale because that's where we've always been since we started streaming. And we're just going to look at what we have right now. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. And this is where we are right now. This is on the daily scale as usual. We saw this big bounce. We created this flagpole with a flag, and usually these might break upwards. Our argument was that we would kind of get stuck here, which we have, and now we're kind of trying to find our way out of this, up or down. Currently on my scale, on the log scale, it looks like we're kind of stuck above it, and that's kind of holding, but it's kind of still falling in under it. It's not really,
But
it's not
see, I
showing
would say
much
it's
accuracy
hugging it.
here.
It's
hugging it. Yeah.
and that's and sometimes that's the same. That's the same kind of thing. It doesn't have to be holding exactly because it's not an exact price. It's if you think about horizontal price targets, they're really easy to set stop losses at because you set a price. But a diagonal, you can't do that. And so what you'll find is, whereas with a horizontal, the liquidity is all at one price, and then if it breaks upwards quite big. With a diagonal, it can be spread a lot more thin, and this is a range, and it could just there's people that aren't really counting this diagonal or not looking at it, so it won't have the same amount of power as the blue line you have there.
Yeah, exactly. And with that as well, usually when you have a diagonal line, like a trend line, which is what this is, usually they have an effect when they meet up with something else, such as this fib line right here. This is why it kind of bounced on this, so it had more strength to hold that price up right there, right here you don't really have much. You have this double topping forming. This is fairly strong resistance. The only thing I found is that we're kind of trading like within this little range right here, which kind of lines up with this volume right here, but that's not really much to talk about right there. It's not enough to be like,
I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, and exactly, it's not even worth it. It's worth mentioning it, but we're not gonna put any weight on it, right? So yeah, no, so we're kind of still waiting for something to happen here on the log scale. It's kind of showing us not that much. However, something that I did find, I was looking through most of our indicators here. RSI is still above mid, so it's still able to bounce on this a little bit and still have that upwards momentum. But the RSI is not what I'm super interested in right now either. The SRSI, the stochastic, is kind of showing a momentum shift here soon. You see how it's topping out over here with the SRSI, and then it's been going sideways. We had this toppling it over, and now we're at the bottom again. So this wants to turn back up in one way or another, as it usually does. It's more like an oscillator, right? So that might show us that, okay, maybe we will find some upwards momentum here shortly in a couple of days, maybe next week, who knows. But it depends on that means that price might be leaning. Yeah, but it might
stay
be
there for days.
Yeah, it can stay sideways in the bottom for quite some time. Like look here in the top, for example, you've seen it go just sideways for a long time. So, but it does indicate that it can't get a lot more bearish than this most of the time.
If you just look at is it February? And you can see there, you can see a period where similar to here, where we've had this big drop straight from the top into the bottom. It held, but it was actually after a period of time in that bottom. That's when the drop came. You do have to, don't preempt it and go, oh, the stochastic is oversold, therefore it's time to buy. The stochastic is an indicator that is valid when it passes up. That's the signal, not currently. So this is still that's bearish as it stands.
But
and the RSI is also trending down.
So what I was saying with this is more like, if it's in the bottom, the chance of it going up might be larger. At least the sentiment of the market for the people that are using this indicator might tell them that, oh, okay, it is oversold. Maybe soon it's time to kind of start working on it. But whatever. I feel like it's not much to say, but I do want to show you something though, Rob, as well, because Clippy showed us an indicator called the PPO, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
Which we found to tell us some interesting stuff sometimes. I'm going to zoom up with this a lot on the daily, and it's going to look kind of shitty. But what we noticed is that, for example, over here, we had a huge pump up early in the year, right? And the PPO went straight up and kind of got stuck on the roof. And then we had a new top with a lower orange one. And after that, we had a big dump. And then we had another red one. We came up to a higher high afterwards, but with a lower PPO score. And then it came down. And now we've come up here to see an orange one. We've not seen a red one yet. But this kind of indicates to me kind of loss of momentum in a long-term pump. And maybe we'll get a higher high next and get a lower rating than this. If we do, that's an indicator for me to be like, maybe it's time to get out. Because after that, history shows with this that it kind of stops going up after that and starts coming down. If anyone here wants to try that indicator and look at it and kind of figure out what you see, because we don't use it that often, but if you want to check it out, it's just search for percentile rank, right?
Yeah,
and try that out.
And so the way I do it is I actually I take the red line, or sort of basically move the lines down, so I put it between where the orange line is, and then I make a green line at the bottom, and it does work quite well as a nice reversal signal when it's crossing back up, exactly like a stochastic in a way. But it's quite nice for picking out decent reversal signals when it does drop out of that oversold or overbought range.
It's an interesting indicator, and I don't feel like we've used it enough.
No,
I feel like I'm not used it enough personally to be comfortable with doing some serious TA with it. But I did want to mention that because that's something that I've kind of caught on to with this one. Let's see. Golden Goose is saying that we should look at the monthly. Yeah, we'll have a look very soon, guys. If you have any questions or any ideas that we should look at, just drop the question here, and I'll save that, and we'll get back into it as soon as we can. Okay, guys. But yes, Rob, do you want to have a look at yours on the linear scale and see what we see on that one? The differences here.
We can do that. So, yeah.
I'll toss it up. There we go. There you go.
Cool. So so basically this is the exact same trend line here in yellow, but it's started from, it basically uses best the 4 hour. Like you can see quite clearly all of these little touches, and if my screen will stop jumping around. Yeah. So going off this, where we, this trend line goes all the way back to June, where we formed it, we validated it, held it, confirmed it as resistance. Okay, yeah, I don't know what the fuck was going on there, but used it again and again. This is a line that's being respected a lot.
Yeah, it's a strong line.
Yes, and so we were having this little debate before the start of this, which one is best to use, linear or log. And my experience from the last market cycle was logarithmic during the bull market and linear during the bear market or accumulation. Because once the price is boxed in, if I can zoom out to here and look at over 2 years of price action here, and this is a true range. This is this is going to be the price range. So people don't care so much about Bitcoin at $3,000 because it's not really a valid. It's not valid. It doesn't mean anything on this scale. And if we look onto the log, then it's got a lot more weight to it. Zoom out to the weekly. Everywhere. It's got a lot more weight to it on the log scale, but if you're a big institutional fund and you invest in things like the Dow Jones and the S&P and bonds and stuff, you aren't looking at the logarithmic scale all day because you aren't investing in something that gives logarithmic returns. If you're investing in something that gives an average of 8% a year, or you're looking at where to allocate bonds that give off 4 or 5% a year, they don't move. These things don't move very much. So there is a lot of big money that isn't using the log scale, and also won't buy things when they're absolutely skyrocketing and they're 500% up in a year. Big money doesn't want to touch that. Like there was a few. I know Michael Saylor is, quite frankly, the world's worst Bitcoin buyer, I think, officially. He must be. Yeah, he's certainly got.
He's definitely bought the most Bitcoin at bad times.
I mean, he is currently back in profit. That is something to note.
You could argue as well he doesn't really give a crap what it's worth.
No,
when he's buying it. So
no, but even when he was buying, and he was clearly buying in a period of market hype, and he still managed to somehow have an average price that was the range top of every period that he bought in.
Yeah,
and
it's nuts.
It's that he clearly had this idea, and I get that he was maybe doing a bit of showmanship and being that at martyr in that I'm going to be the one to go first, but he's now absolutely completely fully deployed, and we've just had a year bear market. We could really have done with a guy wanting to deploy a couple of $1 billion of Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Michael Saylor
if he would have waited. I think if I remember correctly,
just said Michael Saylor is building a position for the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
correct.
True.
But he didn't have to. He didn't have to build it in 18 months. He could have built it in 4 or 5 years.
I mean,
and
I'm sure
if
there
are
are
some patience. He'd now
I'm
sure have a lot more Bitcoin.
I'm sure there are some if he gets a loan from the whatever bank because he kept borrowing money against.
So he's not borrowing from bank, he's borrowing from individual investors.
Yeah, well, whenever he gets the money, maybe they say, here, take it now and buy it now, and then maybe he couldn't control that as much as maybe we could with whenever we want to get in or get out of a position. But either way, dude's a fucking legend anyway.
Oh yeah, Giga
Chat for sure. Super crypto bro.
But
he's crypto father.
Quite clearly a shit buyer of Bitcoin. Like, there's no way around that. Like, he's I don't know.
Michael, we're not dissing you. We like you. You're cool.
No,
Anyway,
I'd love. Well, I mean, I'd love to ask him the question why he bought in the middle of the loosest economic conditions of years, expecting things to tighten up and knowing what that would do to speculative assets.
dude,
Like,
the most G answer he would have would be like, I don't care. Oh, right, okay, well, sure.
I mean,
fine. Dude's rich as fuck.
that's kind of invalidated when you clearly have a Bitcoin-centric focus around accumulating as much Bitcoin as possible. He did not do a sensible strategy for accumulating as much Bitcoin as possible.
It's very true. Anyway, his hands could have been tied and so on.
He traded like a guy who joined the market in 2020. That's what he traded like.
True. Yeah. Either way, anyway, let's get on with the linear thing, because I'm looking here at your you're currently on log. I can see that.
So I'm currently back on log. Yeah. So if I just switch on to linear,
so what I've noticed is that whenever I look at much longer term stuff, I always look on log. But when you're looking at more, if you're just looking at this current uptrend, linear for sure for me.
If I look at the 4 hour and just pick the point where we dropped into this range. So there. If I go between linear and log, there's not a whole lot of difference. So, and that's, we're talking about a year's worth of price action there. So what we do have is a very clear, repeatedly validated line that is valid on the linear scale, which the log scale just slightly knocks off the price. Now, does that make the log chart invalid? No, because there are people use it. Here we are using it, but it's just worthy to note that, sometimes look at both, because it might give you a perspective you hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
And also for people who don't realize it, or don't know about this, turn the chart upside down every now and then, because it often can take away any bias that you've got.
Yeah.
Are you selling this right now? Are you buying it?
Yeah, precisely.
This looks currently like a bit of a buying range. If you look here on the short term, over this period, it looks like a great position to buy this very bearish chart. If you don't know how to turn it upside down, you can just invert scale,
turn your head.
So that was inverting it makes it think, maybe I should be thinking about selling, because the inverted chart looks like it's going to go up. But let's say, according to this, I'm saying that this well-respected trend line is valid until it's invalid, or it's holding until it's not holding. I know that sounds like a stupid thing to say, but you know what I mean. As in, as it stands, we haven't even come down to test it. And
can I say something, Rich?
No.
While we'll look, okay, finish your thing and then I'll tell you.
No, go for it.
No, but look, if you're looking at this now, the white lines that Rob have right here, that is where we have our uptrending channel for this whole uptrend. And if you look at the yellow, it is literally, if you look at it like it was a Bollinger Band right now, these three lines, you've seen it bounce under it first, and then it went above it, and now it went under again, and now it's above it. If that works as a center line for this entire range, then we're still waiting for it to hit here on Rob's linear scale. And if it does and it bounces on it, then maybe we won't go much further than we might get stuck under the white line anyway, which means we're not going to have a giga pump again, maybe.
No, you're talking about
maybe. I'm talking about getting up to that.
Yeah, which even
that's still a lot though, and that would get us into, I think, the range of like
See, my thought here is that thinking is that we're either going to pump straight up out of this, sort of out of nowhere, or we're going to start sort of grinding upwards. I don't think things are gonna. I don't think things look bad right now. This is a bull flag. Looking right here, it's holding. It's range bound. It's in the range until it's not. And if you're above a well-respected trend line and in a range, then you should expect that trend line to hold until it doesn't. So it's not out of sort of the question for me. I expect it to kind of probably have some sort of little dump down here and just piss everyone off, stop everyone out, fake everything, and then it'll just sort of pop back up, and then out it goes. And that's my current thinking, is that it's going to pop down something like that.
I will agree.
Come all the way down, and that's, if it does, then cool. Like,
yep, okay.
I wouldn't worry until it breaks here. And if it breaks there, then yeah, things are going to change.
If we break there, we got the fib level at 25.2 still, which we held exactly right there. And if we break that and bounce on the fib, then okay, cool. Then we've definitely kind of held that new fib level range that we kept talking about before, which we moved from one range to the next one, which is where we are right now. And last time we were in the other range, we were in that range if you discount some stuff, where we went to the absolute bottom for 275 days. So staying in this range, we could stay in here for a while, right? Currently, we've been in this range for 115 days, I think. And so, yeah, I'm agreeing exactly with everything you said right there, that we might see a breakout upwards right there.
Yeah.
So,
but how substantial are we talking? Like, this is the thing with it. These for people that were around in 2018. 2019, 2020, this was a grind, man. Like, there's a lot of room to go yet. If you just steal a bars pattern, and if we kind of just let's go take that bit and look at sort of how things are playing out. Things are going slower. Things are going a lot slower. If you think about, we bottomed, say we bottomed there. Ignore the FTX drop, because we've said that's a fake sort of drop. Then this could be our pattern for years. Like, this is going all the way out to, if I just weekly.
And obviously we can't know this. This is pure speculation, right? Because this is just a fun thing to think about, really.
But that's you could be looking at something like 2 more years of upwards, but sideways
kind of
action.
boring.
It's and that, I think there's a better show is, and as I remember mentioning it last week, if I just look to an older chart, and where we do need the log scale, is I think we've got a lot more. I think sort of this is pretty realistic. Where
I'd love to see that.
I mean, it's slow, not to that extent, but more slow, more boring. Just a meander up for a while, and then things will get exciting once it breaks all-time high. But you can stick that over the top and go, well, this could you could extend it out as long as you want. Are we?
You could.
It could be a little mini one. Think about it. It might be the same behavior, but actually shorter, and we make a new all-time high, sort of towards the end of this year or into next year. That would be a bit of a mindfuck. An all-time high just before the halving, and then we get the halving. Everyone goes and then it all dumps 50% after the halving. That would be very Bitcoin. That would be nice.
Yeah, that would be Bitcoin,
and that's
as it should be.
As it should be. But no, this is the we shouldn't be surprised if these things happen, because these things routinely happen. We've seen it through its history, and yes, Bitcoin's getting less volatile over time, but it's still highly volatile. It still dropped 70% in the last after a year bear market. And you see that green there, and I don't know if you want to get onto any recession talk stuff, but
what I want to do first is just I want to go over what Golden Goose said. He he said, I'm just gonna remove some lines here. Just give me 1 second. I just opened like a random old chart here. So Golden Goose is saying, let's see, look at the monthly. We're banging our heads on the 30K resistance. And I'm just gonna make a line on my chart here because I do have one. And it's something like this.
Are you gonna show it anybody?
Yeah, I am. I'm just removing. Sorry, I'm just removing stuff from my. Couldn't find a chart that I liked. So this is what I'd got just right now on the monthly.
I mean, this is my chart, but
that's good. Sorry, there you go. There you go.
Oh, mine's better.
So yeah, yours is probably better. I just wanted to show you with let's see, regular. So here, this is linear, by the way. But I noticed we're actually above the Bollinger Bands on the monthly, which is not necessarily something that is super valid or anything. But if you look at it from before, the last bull and bear, we broke under it, came out of it, and then we kind of stayed above it, right? And so if we get the same type of movement here, went under it, come above it again, and then we might stay above it. And if you're talking about 30K resistance, this is the line that I've got, which is 32K. I've just moved down slightly. It's basically on it 30 and a half, which is kind of the wicks down here. I don't see that being much of a, other than all this stuff here, I don't see it being much of a problem really to break out of. Maybe a little bit, but I think we've talked about this range before, where it's like we kind of just did something like this and said, oh, this will be rough to get through. I do want to remember us talking about that somehow. And I think that's valid. This might be hard to get past, really. We might get stuck in range here for a long time.
That's somewhere we could spend a year in.
Yeah.
And that's in exactly the same way that we bit the range under it. We spent a year in, essentially, and now we could spend another year here. Mm-hmm. We could be up a bit, it could be a bit more exciting than that, but
could be.
I think maybe the range would be a little bit higher. I think that's maybe a bit too confined for Bitcoin to stay in long. Yeah, I think that's probably something more like it.
So no, I think that's valid for sure.
Well, if you just flip onto my chart for a sec, then
done it.
These are the ranges I have, and if we look how well they have lined up. The previous all-time high held as monthly support and resistance for a long time. Once it dropped, this line, which looks like nothing on the monthly, is actually
I can see it, but yeah,
it's actually the weekly
top on the weeks.
The second support level of after that all-time high drop. And even though you can look at it on the weekly, it's very, very clear that to me as it stands. Yeah, I know Golden Goose say it's banging its head on 30K resistance, but it's also above 29K support, and 30K it isn't particularly important as a price. We've spent some time ranging around it as a psychological level, but you find those often are, as we mentioned about the trend line. There's the magnets. $30,000 is a magnet price. If it's below it, people go, oh, Bitcoin's below 30K, I'll pick some up. If it's above, Bitcoin's had a pump and it's above 30,000 now, I'll sell some. And it can kind of just sit and get trapped at this pure psychological barrier, and that's why they exist. People like big even numbers.
Yep.
And so, but in terms of the chart that I see here is we're above the actual line, which is 29K, and always was.
Yep. There's definitely, I mean, again, we always talk about ranges and stuff like that. kind of finding, we need to confirm. We've confirmed the 25k fib level range up to 36, I think it is, that we're in that range right now. But as a tighter range where we're looking at where we are right now, it's looking kind of toppy because we have double topped. And if I just go back to mine for 1 second, just looking at this, I moved it to log scale here just now. If we're looking at this this is the weekly. If this range is going to be some type of resistance range to get through somehow, we're under it, and we do have all of this volume right here, which acted as a bottom, and we're kind of on top of that, and we have double topped on it. So it is looking kind of bearish in that sense, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're just going to topple over, right? But maybe the weekly needs a correction, really, because we have slowed down the momentum. You can see it right here.
Definitely. Like this isn't me. I'm certainly not being over bullish. I'm just simply the thing with looking at 30 going to say the 30k monthly in confluence with the stock spare SI being overbought is bearish. Yeah, but as mentioned with the starch, is it can stay overbought for a really, really long time. I mean, if you sold because the stochastic was too bullish last time, you missed out on a just a cool move, just a cool 400% rally. And if you then sold when it went bearish, then although you might think, oh yeah, you're a genius, but no, because you sold in you had to wait for it to actually confirm that. If you use this as some sort of set as a sell indicator, obviously you won't use just one as a sell indicator, but looking at this as a pattern, you missed out on, because you sold as it went over, you missed out on a 75% rally.
Yeah.
And so it's right now, I don't personally put much faith on the long term, like the long term stochastic RSI. Say I don't think it really means much to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin moves too fast. It's the Dow Jones, sure, like definitely it will give you a nice long smooth. We can have a look at it.
Yeah, I'll mention while you find that for me personally, the stochastic RSI, I don't use it above the 4-hourly. Like, go to the daily, I'm like, don't really, nah, because in crypto things move so fast up, and the volatility kind of ruins the stochastic RSI on the long-term frames.
Yeah.
So personally, I don't really put much weight in it. So.
Whereas if you look at it on the Dow, well, okay, you wouldn't have been able to make much money, but you would have been able to sell at a period, in February 18, and missed out on. It didn't make a new high after that for, a substantial new high for two and a bit years, 2.5, nearly 3 years. So, that was a perfectly good sell signal. The next one was right before the COVID crash, or mid-COVID crash, but it clearly was looking a bit silly. But it's
too lagging, I think.
Yeah, and it did call the top pretty much in November 2021. So this works really good on a nice slow moving asset that moves with the momentum of an entire nation, which the Dow Jones does. Bitcoin doesn't have that. Bitcoin is Bitcoin's a lifeboat, and if it gets caught in waves, it moves around a lot.
No, I think that's perfectly valid. Like, the stochastic is for me for much shorter time frames, 4-hourly tops. After that, it just, like, for scalping, the stochastic is fantastic. It's like perfect, because it's a
nice confirmation. I'd like it as if you have a strategy where you have whatever your strategy is, and you can have something like the stochastic RSI pack has got to have crossed upwards and be pointing upwards, or the RSI has to be this, or the MACD has to be this. You can have like an indicator that you just look to say, I'm not going to buy unless this indicator says yes. And it's quite useful in programming strategies where you can say, like, just have a little check that even if it's not perfect, it gives you a nice confirmation.
Yeah. We kind of need to start rounding this off. We were
Yeah.
talking about maybe going in to talk about some of the inflation stuff, but maybe we can do a stream later, like on Wednesday. I don't know if you can, Rob, and just talk
Probably.
about inflation then. Because on
We can do
Wednesday we
something.
have the inflation numbers coming out. So
I won't fix us to a day, but we'll do a day.
yeah, we'll try to do a day. And Felipe, just want to respond to what you said just now, but then we have to go. Sorry, Golden Goose. If BTC breaks 34.4K right now, we're going back to 31K.
I mean,
and
that's just noise.
Look, it's like normally we talk about longer term stuff here, but I agree with you, because what might happen right then is that we're going to break above the Bollinger Band right here, the midline, and then we're going to go back into range. We're still in range, but we're going to go back to the top of the range. And if it breaks that at that point and then closes the day above, then we can move. Then that's the move that we've been waiting for the past that's 2 weeks or whatever. And that's
the
great.
move. That's the move that I'm looking at more than a breakdown. Like I'm not. A breakdown is very, very possible. Like we've seen it happen. We've seen these Bart Simpson patterns happen many, many times. Straight back down to the bottom is like oh sweet, okay, cool. But that's what stop losses are for if you're trading. But the momentum, the movement, it's bullish. It's currently on my chart, holding support, moving higher, holding it's bullish until proven otherwise, and it ain't proven bullish yet.
Yeah, I'll mention the short term just here for a second. The 4 hourly has just kind of flipped above, so we're kind of starting an uptrend on the 4 hourly currently as such, right? You can see, and then that might carry on up to here, but we'll see. But that's the 4 hourly, which we don't really mention here much, but I have to get going, guys. I'm sorry. I like it too. But yeah, I kind of got to get going. So
no worries.
Thanks for watching and stuff. And everybody knows you need to like, subscribe, show your grandma, everything, all these stuff. Go out in the town and just force people to watch the show. You know what to do. And by the way, 69 subscribers now.
Nice.
We missed it last time. We wanted it live on stream, but we didn't get it. But we do have it right now. So 69. Happy 69.
So right. Somebody be our 70th now. Take us away from this degenerate number.
Yeah, let's get to 100. Like, tell everybody,
please.
If we get to 100, that would be pretty cool. So anyway, cheers. Bye.
Bye.